So, okay, I think we're live. And for the people who are here, welcome. We're going to hang out for a couple minutes until noon and make sure everything is working. So if you can't hear me, and Andrew, can you speak?
Oh, hello. Hang on. I've got the thing up now, and it's going to echo like I've found it right there. Turned off.
All right.
Okay. Yes.
All right,
1,
cool.
2, 1, 2. Testing.
So I want to make sure that everybody heard Andrew just there. If anybody has any comments, please let me know in the live chat so I know that I am audible. Because I've definitely done that. I've done like 3 minutes of, 3 to 10 minutes of like broadcasting and just like then I'm doing stuff, and then there's all these messages. I can't hear you. It's like, oh God. It's all very confusing.
Is there anybody there?
There's a couple people who are in the room, it looks like. Hopefully we can attract some folks. Let's see. Yeah, it was interesting in your panel. The conversation turned to interfaces, and I was like, oh wait, I don't mean to be self-promoting, but y'all should check this out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got a little bit. Well, people were interested in interface. Yeah, I think that's one reason people use modulars in the first place. Is just the physical interface of the modular itself without hanging it off anything else, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, once you start adding other ways to control it, it can go in interesting directions.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you have a very digitally oriented platform, and there's a lot of computer involved, and when you want to make things happen on your devices, and I mean, do you sort of find friction with that, or you just have your audience and then they're happy about it?
I don't know, really. I mean, some of the stuff I do is almost invisible, right? I mean, like things like the ES3. There's no configuration, there's no settings. It just takes your signals from the digital domain into the analog domain, and if it does that, then everybody's happy. With the FH2, obviously, there's a lot more. There's a lot more kind of smarts in the module itself. It's trying to kind of interpret the data rather than just transmit it.
Yeah.
But that allows for more creative functions as well, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's. I think it's noon, and so let's start. And I will welcome the people who are here. Hi, I'm Peter Nybor from Sensel, and I'm joined by Andrew Ostler from Expert Sleepers. And we are going to be showing off the FH2 in combination with the Expert Sleepers FH2 module in combination with the Sensel Morph control surface. And just to give a little background, the Sensel Morph is a pressure sensor about this big, and we have different overlays you can put on it, and you can even make your own and just put some tape on it. One of the things I was really interested in, we sort of came at this is a digital device. It outputs USB and Bluetooth, so it's kind of geared towards a computer. And I got interested in like, how can we expand that use to modular? How can we expand it to hardware? How do we not have to have a computer with the device and make it still be interesting to people? And I came across the Expert Sleepers FH2, which allows me to plug the USB out from the Sensel Morph directly into the FH2 as a host, and then output CV from my fingers, essentially giving me an opportunity to sort of touch the voltages. And so that was really one of the first devices that I came across that allowed me to do that. And it's kind of one of the more powerful and expandable versions of a lot of these different ones. So because it is powerful and expandable, I wanted to have Andrew join me because I have lots of questions about it. So before we start our conversation, and I rely on your expertise, I'm going to sort of give a little demo of what I have set up here with the modular and morph. So I'm going to switch my camera view to this, and we're very small. And I need to turn on, first of all, sorry, I have to do some OBS adjustments here. There we go. That's better. And I need to turn on my camera over here so people can actually see your device. Zoom way in. All right.
The live stream is not happy.
The live stream is not happy?
No. I've got the actual YouTube window and it's coming up with a no signal.
Ah, that's because this camera is.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, I'm zoomed in a little too high. Okay, there we go. So we're zoomed in on the Expert Sleepers. We've got another camera on the Morph. And first, I guess I should make some noise. So already you can hear that this is not sort of a traditional keyboard, even if I put a traditional keyboard on it. So I'm getting what, we like to call expressive play by being able to move on the device and get a lot of different timbre per note. In this case, it's monophonic. But I can do pitch bends on the X and control the timbre, and then aftertouch. There's some more exotic things happening. So I'm going to actually just unplug here for a minute so people can see the LEDs, and hopefully I can repatch successfully. With the Thunder overlay, it's a little bit more fun because we have some more controls on the bottom. So when I hold down a key, we're getting several different parameters from it. We get the note at the top, the pitch, and then we get a gate, and then we get our aftertouch. We have a velocity as well on 3, so if I tap lightly, it's a dim LED. So we have this really nice feedback, and then aftertouch on 4. And then 5 is outputting that value. And then I also have some controls on this hex pad here. So I have 7 is X, pressure is 6, and 8 is Y there. So that is...
If I could chip in a minute.
Yeah.
Sorry, the camera isn't actually pointed at the Morph terribly successfully.
This one?
Yeah, you're seeing about the kind of the bottom half of it.
Ah. Well, I'm kind of limited because I have lots of wires, but
can you move the Morph kind of forward to the right?
Closer to the right?
Yeah, I think you'd be able to see more of it.
All right.
Sorry.
It's hard to set these things up with all these cameras. That's quite all right. I need this feedback because I'm kind of working in this room somewhere in San Jose, and it gets all very confusing. So anyway, so that is just one setup, and it's kind of a traditional setup in that, I'm using each key controls a particular pitch, and I also have, I have timbre on Y, which is controlling a filter, but there's a lot more interesting things to do. So in particular, when I hold down the pressure, let me repatch here. CV is, oops. Oh, now I see I totally messed up my patch here. Patching live is always a bit hard. So one thing I do have that's kind of interesting, ooh, you can hear that already, is the pressure is modifying some DSP, some effects. So that's a little bit different than you might encounter with another setup. So the first thing you need to know when you're using the FH2 is that you're going to be using a configuration tool. So let me switch over to that really quickly. And let's see, that is my, I'm gonna go to the Zoom window here. Hello, Andrew, you're back. And share my screen. All right, so this is the configuration tool, and the genius of it is that it runs in a browser, and I have USB-C connected to my Mac, and I'm communicating with the FH2 simply by USB-C, and then I'm also communicating with the Morph at the same time. So the MPE setup is really simple. You select your first row here and just make it MPE, and then which ones do you want? You want to be able to control CV, gate, velocity, aftertouch, what CC is coming on Y. So there's a lot of flexibility. If you have a multiphonic or a polyphonic setup, you can have multiple voices coming out and expand it with the, what is your expansion module called?
The FHX8CV or FHX8GT.
All right. So do you fly that, or do you add it to your modular? Sounds sort of like a military plane.
Yeah, it made sense at the time.
I'm sure. And then there's lots of additional tables we can show and hide. So this is our MIDI to CV converters, and of course you can use that with a sequencer as well as using it with a device like the Morph. And then we also have our FH2 outputs, so we can configure how those respond and what voltages they send. So you can see here on 6, 7, and 8, hopefully you can see that, yes. You have CCs 23, 24, and 25, and that's what's giving me this control. But the thing that I'm particularly interested in is this enabled me to get it working and get it satisfactory for demonstrating, oh yeah, you can hook up the Morph to modular. But there's a lot more that's happening in the FH2, like clocks and arpeggiation and Euclidean sequences. And so these are some of the questions I've had. So I decided to take advantage of our SynthBoo situation here, where everybody's sort of in the same virtual room, and try to figure out how some of these things can work for me.
Okay.
So if I wanted to use arpeggiation, and let's just, I need to send a gate and a pitch to this thing. All right, these are my green guys. So,
I mean, the first thing to say here is that the config tool that you're in, very much for configuring how your MIDI controls the FH2. So if you're talking about directly setting up an arpeggiator, then that's kind of one step removed from what you're looking at here. You can go straight into the module menus and just turn on the arpeggiator.
Okay.
If you turn things on in this tool, you're setting up CCs that will control the arpeggiator.
Right.
But unless you've got a MIDI controller handy to send those CCs.
Which we do.
Okay, well, there you go then.
Well,
beyond,
we have,
have you got something as well as the Morph? I think you're going to find it hard to control the arpeggiator from the Morph itself.
We can control the arpeggiator from the Morph because I can send CCs from the Morph as well as notes. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah, so...
Well, the main one to turn on then, I mean, to get the arpeggiator going, first the FH2 needs to have a clock running, so either a MIDI clock or its internal clock. Okay.
So is that best handled from the browser or from the device itself?
Well, if it's so you've got the Morph plugged directly into the FH2, so there's no computer connected to it as well, right?
No, I do.
You do. So I mean, you could send it a MIDI clock, or you could just press the start button on the FH2 itself.
All right. So that would be there we go. So now I have a clock on 8. Okay,
so now, and you have the firmware version that actually works with arpeggiation and MPE, right? Because I only just added that.
Yes, it should, because it's 152, I believe.
Okay, so I mean, the main thing is the very first one there on the arpeggiator list, the mode. If that's not on, it's not going to do anything. So if you can map that to a CC.
So I selected mode.
Yeah, so it's MIDI channel 1, and then select your CC.
Okay. I will make that 23.
Okay, and then send to FH2. So you don't need to do anything else right now. You could just do that.
Oh, okay.
So just send that to the FH2. Yeah, and now if you send CC 23, you should see the FH2 switch to an arpeggiator display.
Okay.
Is it doing that?
Let's see. So
there's a custom display mode it switches to, and it thinks it's controlling arpeggiators.
you know, I wonder if it's confused because I have my output set to those same CVs. So I'll go ahead and clear these.
It should be okay, but
so if I have this set to, the first one is 1 and the second one is 23,
yeah,
and then send to FH2.
Yeah. So on the FH2, you'll either see it saying it's receiving the MIDI CC. I mean, I guess it's probably receiving quite a lot of data when you press a key on the Morph.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's controlling the arpeggiator successfully, it should automatically switch to the arpeggiator mode.
Okay, I'm going to actually change it to, let me try something else. I'm going to try CC14. It's a little more straightforward because I can switch to preset 5. And now I'm sending CC14. I did not see a change on the display here, though.
Okay, that's interesting. Why would that be?
I see an AIO, and it's showing that it's receiving CC14.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, this is a seamless live stream that we're doing.
I know, here we go. This is all about learning.
Live debugging, there's nothing better to watch. So what firmware have you got on there?
191.
On the FH2?
Yeah, I just requested the FH2 version. It says 191.
So, yeah, you need 1.11.
1.11. Oh. Yeah. Wow, that's terrible.
Well, now we're going to do a live firmware update.
All right, so is that done? Oops, I did not want to go there.
You want to go to expertsleepers.co.uk/FH2.
/FH2.
Yeah. .html. There we go.
All
User
right.
manual and firmware updates. Right at the top there. There we go. So
okay.
download the firmware.
And then is this going to require a USB stick?
It is.
All right. And I'm unzipping it.
Yeah. Sticking the text file on the root of the USB stick.
And that's in a ROM. Oh, no. Let's see. Did it create a... I got the zip.
You should end up with a file.
Image hex.
Yeah,
okay.
That's the one. So stick that in the root of the USB stick.
All right. And is this, does this need to be USB-C? Or is this going to go into...
No, it's got to go into the USB-A port on the FH2.
And then I have to turn it off and then turn it back on?
Yeah, you could have just rebooted it from the menu, but yeah, you can turn it and then hold down the button while you power up.
Oh, this ancient USB drive is too big. All right, here we go. And hold down the button.
Yeah.
Rats.
No?
No. You know, I've done this before several times, so.
Okay, with the same stick?
Well, I actually did this recently on the Mantimate with this stick. I wonder if having something in the trash makes a difference.
Maybe, and it needs to be a FAT32 formatted stick.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, should be fine then.
All right, let's try one more time. These are why I have questions. Oh, rats.
Is it not recognizing it?
No, it's not. Is it reboot is in miscellaneous?
Yeah, MISC,
Yeah, there you
reboot,
go.
and just hold down the button as soon as you press reboot.
And nope, it's just booting.
And you're holding down the encoder, not the little button?
Oh, is that the key?
Yeah.
I was using the little button.
No, it's the encoder.
Oh, there we go. Attempting to mount drive. Shouldn't be that slow, huh?
It depends how huge the card is, I guess.
It's not very big.
It's usually like a second or so.
Yeah. Oh man, this is the worst. This is total like demo mode problems.
It's true trade show feeling,
Total,
isn't it?
yeah, this is a real trade show, isn't it? All right.
We
How about-
could
what
skip
about
this for now, but if you want the arpeggiator to work, it unfortunately needs this latest firmware.
Yeah. What about the
Be
Euclidean?
pretty seamless.
I know. No, I've never had this problem. It's because we're live right now. Is really the crux of the biscuit. Do we have? What about the Euclidean patterns? Are those?
Yeah, you could just. Yeah, you
Are
could do
those
that.
controllable in 191?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, because you're just sending in CCs, then you're not relying on any MPE stuff, right?
Correct.
So, yeah. So you get the config tool back again.
All right. Let's try that. I'm all about pivoting when things go wrong.
Okay. Is it? Is it there? Not quite there yet.
Not quite.
By the way, you at some point might like to download the actual configuration standalone tool rather than using the browser version. The standalone is usually a little bit.
Okay. So is it like a? It's just this configuration wrapped up into an actual application.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
It loads a bit faster.
All right. So let's move to the
Okay,
Euclidean
so-
patterns because that is also of great interest to me.
So do an upload from FH2 just so that you're in your in the state.
Right.
Okay. So that's the hardware at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, get rid of the MIDI to CV. Okay, so again, the only thing you need to get the Euclidean started is a clock running, so either MIDI or the internal clock.
All right. And
then map a MIDI to CC to the pulses parameter.
all right. And the clock is set to internal. Okay.
Yeah, so map a MIDI CC to pulses.
Oh, channel
So
first channel one, and then
fourth is sending.
okay,
Yeah,
and then
and that's enough to get something happening once
okay,
you send it. No, not send message.
right.
That's it. Okay. So if you send that CC14, The display should switch to Euclidean mode.
All right, clock. It should be pulsing when I press start, right?
If you've sent that CC14.
Mm-hmm. Ah, there we go. There we go. Oh, interesting. So that's just a clock coming out of one? Is that right?
Can you bring up the actual FH2 screen on the video?
Yeah. Oh, like the OLED?
Yeah, so people can see what's happening on the FH2, or so I can see what's happening on the FH2.
Well, it's very small, so.
But yeah.
You can see it a little bit. I've got cords in the way, which I suppose.
Oh, you've got cords in the way. Okay. Yeah, but even so basically what you've done there is you've set the pulses to. The thing with the Euclidean is you've got the pulses and the steps, right? So steps is how big the pattern is, and pulses is how many steps in that pattern are going to be on rather than off.
Okay.
So you've got 16 steps and you've set 26 pulses, which obviously means they're all going to be on. So if you wind the CC down to below 60, then, oh, hang on.
And now it's blinking slowly is what it amounts to. And then it kind of speeds up when I
so
have
you
more
can see
on.
You can see the pattern there now, changing.
Yeah. So now is it possible to have every output set to a Euclidean then? And so I could use these sliders to modify all my Euclidean patterns.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, and so that's all, but it's just a pulse ultimately. There's no note information that comes out of that. Correct?
Yes, correct. It's just rhythmic patterns, so that you can set an accent to them so that they're like in varying ranks, but basically they're all just triggers, yeah.
Okay, so I wonder what happens when we plug this in and send that to, is it a gate or is it a, there we go.
I mean, it's a CV, so you can use it for whatever you like. That one, output one, you've got mapped as plus or minus 5 volts. So at the moment, it's going between minus 5 volt and 0, which possibly isn't what you intended.
So in this case, I have it just going to a gate input?
So you'd need to change the output range on that output.
Yeah. That terrible reverb going on here. So that is kind of a very basic example, but with multiple, I have obviously a very small modular here, but with multiple versions, I could then, multiple Euclideans, I could just be controlling many sequences of that same sort from the sliders.
Yeah, it works nicely with percussion modules, obviously, when you've got a number of drums all doing kind of interlocking patterns. It's quite interesting, especially if you change them on the fly.
Okay. Wow. Well, that is promising because I'm glad we got something going there. So then the other question I have is can you generate like LFOs or like continuously varying voltages from this?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the LFO section. If you hide the Euclidean section down.
Yeah.
Then most of the rest of that bit you've got there showing now is LFOs.
Okay.
So they can LFOs can be locked to the clock or they can be free. So depending on what you map, whatever you need to control, and then you can see the different shapes of LFO. Okay,
so if I select, it says LFO tempo based, LFO. So are these all CCs that I would control it with? Is that right?
So if you want a tempo based LFO, then you want a couple of. Don't worry about multiplier for now. And then you're not going to see any LFO until you put the level up. So map sign.
Okay.
Something.
So this would be this column sign is for the level of the LFO?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And then the bass channel CC, what does that do? That sets the tempo?
That's the tempo bass. So that's like whether it's a quarter note or an eighth note.
Okay. And then at this point, I'm pretty much game. I can send this.
Yeah, you send that and send CC16, you'll get an LFO.
And that's coming out too. So now I can put that into, let's put that into the, how about I do CV for pitch, I believe. Oh, and the display is also showing
your LFO shape.
My LFO, yeah. And then that's the amplitude. So I'm not really getting much of a cool thing going on there. Maybe I'll make it do volume. And it resets though when I change the rate. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because it's not just tempo locked; it's transport locked effectively. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's more. It's better, probably better to just tap when you're doing that.
If you just want a random LFO, then you want the non-tempo based one.
Okay. This is fantastic because again, then I can have LFOs on. I can have up to 8 different LFOs that I can control with my fingers.
Yeah, and the LFOs are additive on top of whatever else is going on. So if you're using the CV output, say for pitch, you put an LFO on the same thing, it will add that LFO to the pitch rather than replacing it.
Oh my God. Okay. This is why I wanted you on the phone. And I don't know if anybody else finds this inspiring, but I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Because for so long I've been using, I've been using the morph in, like I said, in a very traditional way, getting notes and then using it as if it were like an MPE soft synth. And right. I think it's great, but I also know that there's a lot more in the FH2. So obviously we had problems with the arpeggiators.
Yeah, it's a shame you can't get that firmware upgrade.
I know. I'd have to go full.
You got a different USB stick?
I'd have to go full Golem right now because all my USB sticks have been stashed in unusual places that I don't know right now. As you can see, my office is not optimal in terms of neatness.
Right.
But the other thing so there's LFOs, there's the Euclidean, there's the arpeggiators. You can have multiple clocks from this, is that correct? Yeah,
absolutely. So I mean, the FH2 works quite nicely just as a kind of clocking hub for everything, irrespective of all the MIDI stuff, CV stuff. So that's not really, the clocks aren't designed for kind of live control and changing of what clocks you're getting. That's very much a set it up and leave it running kind of thing. So you're not going to get a lot of joy from controlling that with the morph. But
yeah, but it's also one of those things that it's a module and you're not always using it the same way. So a good example of that is, so I have the Snyder Phonics Mantamate, which is, let me go ahead and show that here. And that's kind of similar in that it's a USB host. And it can also work as a host for your computer and you can send it MIDI and CV or MIDI and CC messages to do whatever. Right now it's just in no input mode, and so it's just blinking out control voltages and clocks, and then you can sort of manipulate those, and it's kind of random. But it's great because it's normally I use it to interact with the morph, but in this case, I don't always want to do that. Sometimes I just need a bunch of clocks so I can play because I want to twiddle knobs or whatever. So that's kind of like the Expert Sleepers, I guess I could say that's sort of your calling card is these multifunctional devices.
Yeah, it seems to have become that. I mean, historically I'm a software guy, so having modules that run software and you can update the software is is good fun for me.
And so with the triggers and gates section, where does that?
So triggers is taking MIDI notes and generating gates or triggers. So not kind of melody generation, but like if you wanted to trigger a whole load of drums, say from MIDI. So like basically you give it a MIDI channel, and typically you'd be sending in a lot of drum pads and stuff. So basically you tell it what note to listen to, and it'll send a trigger or a gate in response to that note on a particular output of the FH2.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like almost like a drum pad in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay.
if you had all your morph pads set to generate a particular note, then you could have them generating triggers out of different outputs of the FH2 and use it as a drum pad. Yeah,
cool.
But also then have the pressure and YCCs going off to do something else.
Yeah.
So completely ignoring the MP-ness of it, just sending a different note from each pad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's very cool to do. That's something I've done with like the music easel. I was showing that yesterday, and yeah, you can set it up so that it's like, yeah, each tap doesn't necessarily correspond to the same pitch. You can set it up so it does all sorts of wacky things. So I've got some questions here in the comments here, as we've been falling behind on that. So someone says, can I connect the morph to my iMac and then connect my iMac to the ES9 MIDI breakout and disting EX to control my Hydrasynth and modular synthesizer modules using my iMac computer as a USB host? And that would be a yes. You would just route your MIDI through your, whatever your host MIDI is, whatever your DAW is. And that was Wago or Vago who asked that. And let's see, troubleshooting of FH2 and Morph available for the general public. Yes. So there was another question in here. It says, I have an old SH101 with Kenton. No, that wasn't the question. All right. Well, I think that was pretty much the other only questions I have. Someone says that red case is neat. Yes, I laser cut that.
All right.
Cool. Yeah, these were sort of, I had to make a small case. Basically, I got into modular because of Superbooth, and I had to travel to Berlin, and I did not want to travel with a lot of stuff. So I ended up having to build cases to make that work. So let's see, we covered the Euclideans, triggers, and then FH2 output configurator. That can be as simple as just a CC. The FH2 output configurator, you can make it so that really you're just sending slides with your morph, or whatever your CC is, to directly to the CV out. Is that correct?
Yeah, so basically that's like almost complete no intelligence in the FH2 at all. It's just turning your CC directly into a CV.
Right, so it could be like a mixer, hands-on mixer. You could do something simple like that. Yeah.
And that will, at the FH2 end, that supports 14-bit CCs.
Oh, nice.
If you have a controller that will send that.
Well, I do, because the morph does send that.
Well, there you go.
And then I see, so some
how
other
I
things
set you up for these. Amazing. Hit keyboard. Yeah, so you can actually just plug in a PC keyboard into the FH2 and have it respond to typing.
Oh, that's brilliant.
If you want to do that.
Well, that's also interesting because you can actually set up, you can actually set up the morph to act as a keyboard.
Okay, there you go.
So just for like really basic key presses, I mean, it might be even more straightforward than using MIDI.
Yeah. Yeah, so it supports that, and gamepads as well. So you can plug in a PS4 gamepad or whatever.
And so you have your joysticks and D-pads that you can use to control your modular.
Exactly.
So that's wonderful. And yeah, I think that the Mantamate can do that too. I mean, not to hype your competition here, but.
No, fair enough.
And then, of course, there's two CV to MIDI inputs on this thing, too.
Yeah. So there's two inputs on the FH2, which by default control to clock, so you can clock it from the modular.
Okay.
But you can instead have those do CV to MIDI. So either generate MIDI CCs from CVs, or it will do pitch and gate as well, so you can generate MIDI notes from the modular.
Well, I mean, you know, for example, if you wanted to use maths in Bitwig, you could essentially do that, right? Because you could just take the output from maths into the X and Y, and you could be generating modulators and then take those into Bitwig as MIDI.
Yeah, if I was going to do that, I would do that as audio, though, through a ES3 and an ES6 or an ES8 or an ES9 or something.
Yes, but I don't have those.
If you want to do that, then you should buy those, definitely. But yeah, so you could definitely control your kind of your virtual synths in your DAW through MIDI, or you can use that kind of in a slightly meta way to have the CVs generate CCs, which the FH2 itself uses to control other things. So you can kind of have like a second order control over the FH2. Oh,
okay. So if you wanted to control your arpeggiation, you could use basically this CV control signals. They're in the back end, they're getting converted to MIDI, but we don't need to talk about that. You can just accept it and use those as controllers for whatever process is going on the FH2.
Exactly. Yeah.
Man. Okay. I knew there was more. And sorry for the difficulty in the midway, but I'm personally very pleased to be able to pick your brain about this thing. So.
Yeah, no trouble.
All right.
Nice to spout.
Let me see if there are any other questions here. It says, it looks like the FH2 is out of stock everywhere in the States. Is that changing soon?
Some, they have been out of stock for a while. Some have left the factory.
Okay.
And more are due soon. So they're finding their way through the distribution chain at the moment. So yes, they are.
Okay. So
they are back in stock in theory somewhere.
Do you have a distributor in the US that's going to then parcel those out to?
I have a distributor in Scotland who distribute them everywhere.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, they go out to the world from here.
Okay. Well, I'm hogging because I have two of them. So. Okay. Well, I think that pretty much answered all my questions, and we've got through most of these questions. And so, yeah, thanks so much for bearing with me, Andrew. And sorry I didn't have the latest firmware. That's a pretty rookie move of me to start the live stream without the latest.
Well, we'll do another one when you've got the latest firmware, maybe. Yeah,
okay, absolutely. Well, or I'll just do a proper demo that is concise and easy to watch and, pre-recorded with nice lighting and better staging. So.
Fantastic.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much, and have a good night where you are in the UK, and I will continue on with my afternoon here on the West Coast.
Enjoy.
All right, thanks so much.
Cheers, thanks for having me.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.